This conference will now be recorded.
Oops, hang on just a second. Sorry.
This conference will now be recorded.
Mayor Pro Tem Seitz, thank you for joining us to talk a little bit about some very passionate subjects for you here in the city of Westminster. And thanks for all you do on council and for the community as a whole. I'm excited to hear more of your insight, especially as we're entering yet another very challenging time as it relates to the pandemic. And a lot of people are struggling with housing. A lot of people are struggling with food insecurity. The challenges go on, but I want to focus right now on affordable and workforce housing, and specifically a strategic plan that I know you worked really diligently on and getting moving forward here. And I love the quote from the introduction to the plan. It says, "Every Westminster resident should have a safe, stable, and affordable place to live." Westminster residents are not a commodity, they are a community. That's a very powerful, powerful statement. Talk about the work that you and many on council and staff have really devoted to this area.
So thank you so much, Greg, for asking about this issue. It's something that I'm very proud of, the work that we've accomplished in Westminster, and something that's really critical to our residents. When I first got on council, we started to hear from our community and then also from other community groups about the issue of housing insecurity in Westminster. And not, just from the residents' perspective, which was pretty dire, this growing housing insecurity in our community, but also understanding how it impacts us as a community, how it impacts our ability to provide services. Basically, when people are burdened by rent, they don't have the discretionary income to buy the goods and services that help pay for our sales taxes. So that pay then for our city services. So understanding this was a huge issue, and we wanted to understand it and get in front of it. So my former colleagues on council and myself, along with city staff, decided that we really should understand the issue and what the issue looked like in Westminster specifically. And so we asked for that affordable and workforce housing strategic plan you just referenced. And that really allowed us to understand the specific issues and allowed us then to work effectively at addressing those issues. So we recognize from that study that there is not one profile of a person experiencing homeless in Westminster. There's many different factors that can lead to someone experiencing homelessness or housing insecurity. And different people, different situations need different types of assistance. One thing we knew was that prior to COVID, one of the largest numbers of homeless in our community were folks that didn't have a permanent address, but were floating or rotating between family members' homes or friends' homes. And a good chunk, the largest population actually we had of homeless were children in that situation. So understandably, the pandemic has complicated that scenario and made housing even more tricky for folks like that. So Westminster, while we're not a direct provider of housing, we've done a great job partnering closely with local housing authorities in both Adams and Jefferson counties, and also a lot of nonprofit organizations who do provide housing and housing services, just such as United Way or Growing Home, to name a few. Additionally, we have comprehensive lists of housing resources on the city's Economic Development Department homepage that you can go to look for any assistance you may need, and that can go beyond housing into food insecurity as well. And we also have a lot of information in our COVID-19 resources on the city's general page in addition to that. Many people may not know I have a personal connection to homelessness. I have a cousin who has struggled with experiencing homelessness most of his adult life. He is a wonderful human being. He adds a lot to my life, and I thank him for helping me remember that this isn't an issue or a problem. These are people in our community that we need to respect, treat with dignity, and assist.
let's talk about homelessness a little bit more here. And before we get back down to home here at Westminster, let's take a broader view of both nationally and regionally what's happening right now. What are some of the greatest challenges that you're hearing about or seeing as it relates to homelessness now, and from that national picture?
I appreciate that question because this is such a challenging time in COVID for folks that are experiencing homelessness, and really has changed what that looks like. So there's a lot of confusion and uncertainty. So a large number of lower income tenants tend to pay month to month, and they don't have legally enforceable leases. And so that adds a level of insecurity for a lot of folks. We do know that on October 21st, the governor here in Colorado did extend the eviction moratorium for 30 days, but we're getting close to the end of that. And while there has been a moratorium also on late fees, people still have to pay their rent, and so that is building up and getting into a situation that may be very difficult to cure for folks who have lost their jobs. Affordable housing developments are taking years longer to break ground, delaying the alternatives for even the small number of families those projects can help. We have worked in Westminster to support Colorado legal services for qualifying low-income residents so they can receive free assistance to help go through the process they need to make sure they qualify for this eviction moratorium. And so anyone who wants to contact Colorado Legal Services can do so via our website. They can find information, or they can call 720-595-4379.
Yeah, that's a great resource too, and it's a free resource, which you can't say enough about the expertise they have there. Let's talk a little bit more now about what's happening here in Westminster. You hear this a lot more than I do, but there is concern that homelessness is on the rise. People are reporting more encampments. In some cases, you could drive by shopping area parking lots and you can see people living in their vehicles now, which I'm personally seeing a lot more in our community, which is troubling. But what are staff telling you about the situation, and more importantly, what are we doing right now to help people who are perhaps chronically homeless, but what we're seeing a lot now because of the pandemic are perhaps people first time experiencing this?
Well, you're not wrong, Greg. The number of folks that are experiencing homelessness in Westminster on any given day has risen since the start of 2020. The visibility of some encampments has also increased. And we have staff that actually are devoted to working with our homeless populations across jurisdictions, including a homeless navigator. Actually, that's a new role whose sole focus is to conduct outreach and connect people with the resources they need to get shelter and other support. This support may include lining up emergency shelter, streamlining financial support options, and helping with underlying health conditions. The navigator may also arrange for cleanup of dangerous campsites. So right now we are following CDC camp guidelines during COVID-19. So unless it gets to become a dangerous situation, we're not asking people to move. We want to be respectful and make the safe choices, or make a safe place. But if it does become dangerous, they can assist in cleaning up that area and preventing it from becoming a public health hazard. And as of the start of September, our staff has connected at least 13 people to permanent housing through partnerships with local housing authorities, and assisted 10 people with other benefits, such as food, social security cards, and other identification, and assisted 6 people with getting into long-term substance abuse or mental health treatment programs from this navigator. And really the list goes on and on. So this new navigator position is really making a difference with the community experiencing homelessness in Westminster. That's not to mention all of the other amazing services that Westminster is assisting with with our nonprofit groups or with food insecurity.
Yeah, it's a great service, and we thank council's support for that, by the way, because it would not have been possible without your guidance and leadership. So thanks to everyone on council for that vision. And in our parting moments here, what is your call to action for the community as a whole as we kind of lean into this impact of the third wave and the uncertainty that's still out there in our community?
I would remind people these are difficult times. Many folks who were already on the edge of income insecurity and housing insecurity may have been pushed over that edge due to COVID. Our food pantries have been giving out record numbers of meals and really could use your support. You never know, it could be a neighbor who has too much pride to ask for assistance. I think this is a time as a community where we need to come together, help each other make it through this time. And so in whatever way makes sense for you, whether it's donating to a food kitchen, volunteering at Growing Home, checking in with your neighbors, please remember the way we're going to get through this is together.
Very good advice. Mayor Pro Tem Seitz, thank you for all you do, and thanks for joining us today. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Greg, and I appreciate you.